Hey everybody, it's Jennifer, and I decided to do this video because I literally had no choice. This topic has been in my spirit and on my mind for the past few days, and I really fought actually having a conversation about it because this process is so exhausting. Really saying things that people need to hear, but unfortunately, who most of us are just not willing to hear. All because we're all up in our brains instead of in our hearts and in our spirits. And literally, right now, we are at a place as a society where we're going to have to either evolve or literally just cease to exist. Or, as I say, evolve or die. And I say that because at this stage in the game, there are people, there are entities, there are organizations, there are things that are set up that have the knowledge, that understands how the universe works, that understand what's going on, who are literally pulling puppet strings on us as the masses. And we fight and we fight and we fight for our limitation so hard because of these stories that we've told ourselves. The topic of this live is Law of Attraction 101 and why you hate Kanye. I personally I've always thought Kanye was definitely a genius lyrically, in the hip hop industry. And I mostly, I have a couple of Kanye albums but I mostly ignored most of his antics. But I've got to say, at the same time, I've ignored, but then I've also been paying attention. Kanye has the knowledge; he understands. Most, many, if not most, of your favorite hip hop artists, they get it. You got your boy Puffy. He's calling himself Love now. We got Ti. He's carrying himself like a gentleman, walking around using big words, educating and uplifting people's mindset. There's so many. I'm saying that Jay-Z. I'm saying that to say there are a lot of us that understand how this law of attraction things work. I actually had a conversation just the other day on Facebook with a friend of mine who is a university professor, actually a university professor of African studies. And literally 98% of the time, I try to scroll by most of what he posts because the vast majority of it is rooted in, some form of oppression. Specifically, the topic of choice is black male oppression and how difficult it is, and the misandry that's taking place against the black male that's keeping them from achieving and holding them down, and systematic racism and all these different things. Now, I don't say that to say that there are not entities, as I mentioned, that are literally doing what they need to do to try to subjugate and oppress people of color all throughout the world. That is definitely and indeed the case. However, because most of us don't understand how law of attraction works, we're not realizing that we call more energy and more manifestation to something that we focus on. When we put our attention on something, when we focus on something, we are elevating it. This is law of attraction. If you notice, over the past year that Trump has been in office, all these racial incidents have escalated, and it's every major restaurant. It's the The police are doing it everywhere. It's just all over. And there's something to the story. Um the story is, you know, the system is set up and it's racist and this, that, and the other, which, as I said, is not inaccurate. The whole thing is that most of us are very clear on what we don't want. We can identify the negatives. We can talk in depth about all the things that are wrong in our society and with our culture and everything else. But we really, really have a hard time identifying what's right. For instance, and I'm going to turn this. I'm in the car. I'm going to turn this car on and turn the air on because it's like 80 degrees out here in hot Atlanta. The weather finally changed. What was I saying? I was in the middle of some conversation. What was I saying? The long and the short of it is that most of us are focusing on what we don't want. We're focusing on the negatives that are taking place around us, and we can speak at great length about how things are not working in our lives, all the people that are against us, how things are hard, how the system is blah, 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 blah. I literally had the professor that I mentioned tell me that I needed to not bring up these principles about what you focus on and shifting our attention to the solution. I was actually told that I shouldn't, that basically he didn't have to believe or share my beliefs about the law of attraction. What he was doing was educating people about there being a problem, and then so that they can find a solution. And what I want to assert is that you can never find a solution by focusing on the problem. It's like, I believe it's Einstein, I think, that said this. You can't solve an equation with the same, the same problem that you use to create it, or the same mindset that you use to create it. You have to, if you are in a certain mindset and if you're experiencing a certain thing in your life, if now you're having financial problems, you're having relationship problems, you're having health problems, all of these things are happening as a result of your focus. Not to say that in any given moment, something unexpected can't happen to you. Things happen. Things happen that we don't expect, or we don't plan, or we would prefer not to have happen. However, that is part of this journey. The darkness and the light are the same in God's eyes. And we need to develop that understanding to be able to navigate this world and recognize that things are not going to always go great. Sometimes things are going to be hard. Sometimes people are going to just die unexpectedly. Sometimes we're going to get sick. Sometimes people are going to leave us. Sometimes we're going to feel lonely. There's all these different things that are going to happen. It doesn't matter if you are a Christian, a Muslim, atheist, a Hindu, whatever your belief system is, life does not exclude you from going through challenges and hard times. That's part of the journey. But what most of us kind of veer towards is this whole idea of, and I say this a lot, we believe in God, or we've been taught to believe in God, but we don't believe in ourselves. We don't understand our power and recognize that we are creating in every moment through what we focus on, through what we speak, through what we allow in our gates. And right now, what's happening in our society is that we have we have a system, we have a media system that is kind of being set up to only allow for certain voices to be affirmed. We're not allowing for differences in thought and perspective. And because of that, we're killing off free speech, and we're killing off the the things that elevate us, the things that actually challenge us to go to that next level. You know, certain things that I have experienced, or that I've seen in my life, is because of it's just my life experience, and I've grown as a result of it. Some of it has been lessons that have been revealed to me divinely through spirit, and some of them have been lessons that have been revealed to me through people, through individuals that I've come into contact with who have given me lessons. And so if they hadn't had the opportunity to give me a lesson or give me a different perspective with which to view my life and my situation and my circumstances, then I would be in that same stuck place. I think what's happening is Kanye said a lot. He said a whole lot. I have so much respect for Kanye West. I have so much respect for Kanye West because he's not built for you earthlings. He's not built for you earthlings. You're not going to understand what he's talking about if you are looking with your head and not your spirit, that inner eye, the third eye. If you are high off of prescription medications and poisonous water and GMO food and toxins and all these different things, your third eye is shut off, it's closed, and you can't perceive what's going on around you. That's part of this whole system. This whole system is designed to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind. And that's all that Kanye was trying to communicate. It's not that someone is saying that people are choosing to be oppressed, but we are also, but in a certain manner of speaking, if we allow ourselves to be mentally enslaved, then we're choosing it. That's the whole point of what was trying to be conveyed. And because most people they really don't read, or they don't do their own research, we're convinced by groupthink. We get a little clip of 30, 45 seconds, and then make these sweeping judgments, boycotting, protesting. We got people threatening. You got Crips threatening to attack him, beat him down on sight, all these different things. And somebody brought up a good point. They said, wow, isn't it amazing that rapper Daz got online and told all the Crips that you need to beat Kanye's ass on sight. However, we still got people like George Zimmerman walking around, and ain't nothing happened to him. We'll threaten our black celebrities for having a different perspective. We'll have all these crazy things to say, but we don't have that to say about these rappers that are literally talking about selling drugs, misogyny, just crazy, not even selling drugs. The 90s was the era of hip hop selling drugs. Nowadays, these rappers be using drugs. They be rapping about using drugs. So they're promoting drug abuse, alcoholism, single parenthood, bad communication, lack of, connection and relationship. It's not a wonder why our communities look the way that they do. Before I got in the car this evening, I was on Facebook and I saw this video of this little girl. I kind of scrolled this video for the longest time, didn't check it out. So this little girl with cornrows and beads in her hair, just the most precious thing. And she's talking about how her and her friends just want to live, and telling people that they don't need to be shooting each other, and that we just want to live. And I mean, I literally was just broken down by this video, because I'm sitting back thinking to myself, we come to this place in society where babies, the chick must not have been, the little girl couldn't have been more than like, I don't know, 5 or 6 maybe. She's doing a whole 3 or 4 or 5 minute video about not getting shot and why it's not right to kill, and that God should be the only one that's taking people's lives when it's time, and it's not time. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was literally heartbreaking. But I thought about that. I'm watching this and I'm thinking, there are people. I just read an article. I think it was like 60 people died in Chicago over the past week. 60 people. The whole thing is, we allow ourselves to get riled up by what the media tells us is something that we need to get upset by. We're getting riled up and emotional and protesting and doing all this stuff about police brutality, but most of us are not taking the same passion about the killing that's going on in our communities each and every day. We're not getting that upset and emotional about these rappers and these individuals that are promoting drug abuse, alcoholism, cigarette abuse, all these different things. We don't protest those people, but we protest somebody that was literally that TMZ interview that Kanye did. He did about 30 minutes of conversation. What he said about that slavery comment was literally less than probably 6 or 7 seconds. But that's all you see in the media. That's all they loop, all they loop, all they loop, all they loop. And because people are not online, because because they got their third eye calcified, and their brains are all gone because of chemicals in their food and just media programming, because of that, the majority of people haven't even watched the full video. And if they did watch the video, they just said, well, he's just talking that nonsense. He's trying to promote his album, which, heck yeah, he's trying to promote his album. Why wouldn't he try to promote his album? But that doesn't negate the fact that there's some real stuff up in that damn video. What he was talking about, choices, and, people being able to create their own reality. Now, that guy that they highlighted at TMZ, that everybody's celebrating for going back at Kanye, respect to him, but at the end of the day, your feelings don't make what Kanye said any less real. That's the problem. We're more concerned with our feelings than the truth and the fact. The truth and the fact and the matter is, we have choice, and it's not the government's responsibility. It's not Obama's responsibility. It's not Trump's responsibility. It's not because of systematic racism. It's not any of those things. At the end of the day, as long as we continue to think that way, we're putting our ability to have change in somebody else's hands. And at the end of the day, why would somebody that benefits off of your oppression give up their power? I think, was that Martin Luther King? Freedom is never given by the oppressor, but it must be demanded by the oppressed. At the end of the day, if we desire a change, we're going to have to come up with a new vision for what that looks like. The vast majority of these organizations and protests and all these different things are focused on, we're fighting against police brutality. We're fighting against, violence in our streets, the war on drugs. All these things are focusing on the behavior and the thing that we don't desire. That is Law of Attraction 101. You've amplified it. You've made it worse. It seems like I talk to people all the time, and their perception is, the collective perception is, that racism is getting worse in America. I don't believe that racism is getting worse. I think that we're focusing on it quite a bit, and it's just in the top of people's minds. And I have this woman that I follow, who's fantastic. I love her. She's on social media. Her name is Monique Ruffin. But she did a post of probably like a year or so ago that I actually saved and I actually reposted recently. And it was basically saying that, the vast majority of us believe that people, when we interact with people, we think that people are racist. But in actuality, it's just the fact that most people are just assholes. And I laughed about it, and I was like, you know what? She was just like, I'm an asshole quite a bit. Like, sometimes I'm an asshole because I just don't feel like being bothered. I'm hungry. I had a hard day, whatever. And I'm just come off rude. I'm disrespectful, and I'm cross at people. The thing is that the vast majority of us would look and say, well, if it's a person of another race or culture, that it's racism. Oh, this white person was an asshole to me. It's racism. I think it's just that, a lot of people are just freaking assholes. And that should made a lot of sense to me. It really resonated with me because I thought about it like, you know what? I believe that that's true. The vast majority of people are just wrapped up in their own stuff. They're wrapped up in their own head. They have definitely been pumped with preconceived notions of what how other communities live, because in America, white people don't have to understand or know anything about any other culture if they don't really desire to go and explore that. We Everything is relayed to us on a basis that is Eurocentric, and so of course they don't understand or have any perspective on what Black lives experience, what communities of color experience in terms of police brutality and all these different things. Their perception is completely not online because that's not their experience. That doesn't necessarily excuse it, but that's just to give perspective that our perception of it being some diabolical race motivated situation is not really necessarily accurate. It's our perception, and that perception is again based on exposure and repetition. Back to the professor. He basically told me that he didn't have to believe my assertions about law of attraction, and that I didn't understand because I wasn't a Black male about how difficult it is, and all the systematic things that keep them stuck as compared to Black women. Black women apparently have it much, 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 much easier. So, okay, let's just assume that is the case. So the mindset behind that type of assertion is, we are going to complain and protest and write, dissertations and talk about and have symposiums and have conferences and go on and on and on and on about, how these people are trying to oppress us, and then wait for them to change their mindset and do something different towards us. What sense does that make? As if you are the oppressor, if you are a person in power and everything is slanted in your favor, what exactly is the motivation? Maybe the conscience of that person or that group, but that's a slow moving thing. We could do that, or we could focus on us, focus on what we need to do individually to create a change and elevate our life and our lifestyle. he also made a comment in one of his posts that that poverty is inherited and it's not people's fault if they are poor because it's a family legacy passed on and on. I agree that the mindset of poverty is passed on. I believe that the belief system that contributes to poverty is passed on. However, poverty is not a gene. Being poor is not a something that, it's not like having a mole on your chin like everybody else in your family. It's something that you can choose or choose not to. There are principles that govern the universe. Whatever we focus on is what we get. And unfortunately, too many of us are just focused on being consumers. We're focused on looking rich. We're focused on, stuff that fades. We're focused on, getting, a job and, simple things that are like, we got to get into, businesses, getting started with businesses uh, and trust and bringing family legacies, family, uh, what am I trying to say? Bringing into fruition like family rituals and legacies and stories, and having something where children can say and look up and say, wow, I can't hold myself, I can't do certain things, I can't act that way, I'm part of this family and we represent this, our family stands for this. It's kind of like Damon Dash. I love Damon Dash, by the way, but his whole conversation talking about he doesn't do what he does for himself. He does it for his last name. That is profound. Most of us are doing stuff because, hey, I'll just go work this job and pay these little bills and try to keep the lights on, and I'll just do enough and then just live for the weekend, and that's good. I'm keeping a roof over my children's head. There's some that's good. That's a start, but at the end of the day, it's all about legacy. The problem with so many of us is that we're having our children start over every single generation because we don't leave them anything. We're not willing to sacrifice. We're not willing to do something different. We're not willing to step outside of our comfort zone and and elevate ourselves. And so we just let our kids start over every single generation, over and over and over again. They starting from scratch. And that's why so many other communities are wealthy, and why so many people of African descent, African Americans, black, whatever, Moors, Hebrew Israelites, we got so many freaking names. It's like, it's crazy. At the end of the day, I was feeling Kanye on so many different levels that I can't even begin to tell you, but I'm going to just say, like, sometimes I feel him. You get annoyed by this focus that, we have on race. It's such a construct. It's so much of it's just bullshit that really divides and just kind of jacks up our perception. And because we are so busy trying to prove that other people are oppressing us because of it, and because that's why we're getting treated this way, and we're so busy focusing on that, we are elevating, we're escalating this whole idea of race. It's like, just deal with people as human beings. Who is this person that is standing in front of you? Who are they? Another thing I saw, just I think in the past few days, it was some Native Americans that went on a school tour. I forgot what school it was, and some white parent apparently was concerned because they weren't being talkative, and called the police on these kids that were just trying to take a school tour. And again, the whole thing was, uh, you know, you make us feel uncomfortable because you're different. I perceive you as different, when in actuality, they're just kids that are trying to go to college and try to take a school tour. But our prejudices and our that BS that we keep absorbing and allowing the powers that be to use against us to divide us continually is gonna be the downfall of us. So we just have two choices at this point. We're gonna have to evolve or we're gonna have to die. There's no other choice at this point. We're going to have to evolve in our consciousness. We're going to have to recognize how the universe works. We're going to have to stop letting these entities, the media, all these different things impact our world and control us, because that's all that's happening. We're being manipulated and controlled, and we believe that we think that these are our beliefs. We think that we came up with this whole idea that we don't like Kanye West anymore. We think that we came up with this whole idea of, you know, Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. Like, all this stuff is focusing on exactly what these people want us to focus on. It's not focusing on solutions. It's not focusing on creating a vision. The focus needs to be on what is the vision that we want to create. What type of world do we want to live in? What do we want to see? What do we want to experience? If we can't summarize that, if we can't have a clear picture of what that is, then we're never going to see it. All we're going to see is what we focus on. This stuff is not up for debates. The law of attraction is not me and my theory. It's not. And just like I said to my professor friend, law of attraction is not, it's like gravity. You don't have to believe in it for it to affect you. You don't have to believe in it at all to affect you. It's still going to work regardless of whether you believe in it. That's how law of attraction works as well. It's going to work whether you believe in it. So I suggest that you start studying what law of attraction is all about and understanding that these principles govern every aspect of our lives. If you don't understand this, what's going to happen is that the people that do understand it are going to continue to exploit, manipulate, rape, kill, maim, and do everything that they've been doing to keep the very poor and ignorant masses down. That's exactly what's happening. If you take a look at the people that are doing well financially, that have prosperous lives, there's principles, there's a theme that exists in these people's lives, and it doesn't happen from being focused on negativity, anger, hate, all these different things. It does not. That's an energy that quells and stops and hurts, harms. I don't know what other word I want to use. Manifestation, high vibration, truth. Anyway, that's all I got for today. This is a 101 law of attraction video about why you may hate Kanye. And I really hope that you take the time, if you haven't already done so, to really watch his video and actually try to understand what he was trying to say. And sometimes you're not ready. There's different vibrations. We can only understand and hear at the level of that we're at to hear. So you might not be ready to hear what he's trying to say, and that's fine too. But let's not take these things out of perspective in comparison to people that are truly doing serious harm to our communities, to the mindsets of young men and women who are caught up in gun culture, gang culture, drug culture, and hoe culture. That's basically what has been being put into our communities and into our young people, and we aren't protesting that. We don't have to get it together, people. One step at a time. Anyway, hope you have a good night. Talk to you later.